this is the checkpoint 1. So it's the workbook 1.1, 1.2, and the checkpoint for checkpoint 1. So this is the unit. And the first starts talking about slope. So I'm just going to share some things about slope that you need to remember. Slope is the rise over the run. If you don't remember this, it's okay. Learn it now. What the rise means is if we had a graph like this, and we had a line that looked like this, we have how far up it goes. This is called the rise. That's the y's. And then we have the run. Those are the x's. So we want how much are the y's changing by and how much are the x's changing by. The triangle is a symbol for change. It's a delta is technically what it is. So it's the change in the y's over the change in the x's. They have fancy formulas that go y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What that means is if you had 2 points, and maybe it was on a graph, maybe it wasn't, they just call one of them x1 and y1 because it comes from 1 point, and then x2 and y2 because it comes from the other point. So this is the slope. In an equation, it ends up looking like this. Y equals mx plus b, where this m, this is the slope. So you might have to find the slope of lines. So this is how you find the slope. Or you might have to just recognize it in an equation. That's the slope. It's the number right before the x, not the one that's being added or subtracted to x, but the one that's being multiplied by x. And if they have the equal slopes, then they are parallel. So parallel means equal slopes. As in the exact same thing. You might need to take the slopes and reduce them, but that's what it means. So that's the idea going into workbook 1. So here's workbook 1. It says, examine the lines and answer the questions. Given that A is parallel to B, so we know they're parallel, and parallel is code for the same slope. And if we know the slope of line A is 2, what is the slope of line B? Well, same slope means that that has to be 2. And then we can go to the next question. So we have these 2 points right here, and we need to figure out if those are parallel or not. So we would write the points down. Okay, my pro tip on doing these things, and so you write down the points like this. You write them vertically, like on top of each other, and then you subtract down. So we're going to subtract going down where the y's are going to go on the top, and then the x's are going to go on the bottom. So this is the top. This one's going to go on the bottom of a fraction. So 2 minus 0 is 2. Negative 2 minus negative 1 is negative 1. So 2 goes on top, negative 1 goes on bottom. 2 divided by negative 1 is negative 2. Do the same thing with line K. I subtracted going straight down. So 4 minus 2 is 2. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. 2 goes on top, negative 1 goes on bottom. 2 divided by negative 1 is indeed negative 2. So yes, they are parallel because they have equal slopes. I guess it would be yes, both lines have a slope of negative 2, so they are parallel. Next question asks, so we are looking for the one that talks about the slopes of line M. Look at the picture. We have line L and line M. So the ones that talk about the slopes, we have the slopes and slopes are those bottom 2 on mine. Yours will probably be mixed up. But line L, so I can see that they're both negative slopes, because if I had a skier going here, it would go down as I go from left to right. So they both have to be negative slopes. So the difference is in what the rise is and what the run is. And so let's start with line M. Line M is this one on the outside. So the rise for this one is AC, and the run is BC, or CA and CB. So let's look here, M, AC, and EC. That is not the right one. So it has to be this last one right here. So you have to make sure it's the right, describing the right one. Okay, this is lesson 1.2, and it is similar to the last one, except for now we're dealing with just the equations. So notice right here, it has the equation right here. This is the point slope form, which is a very handy equation. I personally don't use it very often. I'll show you what I use when I do stuff like this. So this is what I do. First, I'm going to write down the point and the equation. Okay, so I wrote down the point and the equation. So I know that in order for these to be parallel, they have to have the same slope. So I'm going to put here same slope. So we start by writing y equals 2x, but the difference is we don't know what that y-intercept is. We know it cannot be -7 or else it'd be the exact same line. So I'm going to put plus b. Now our goal is to find the b. So let's go over these steps really fast. Maybe. Okay, so we put those in that, write the equation in y equals mx plus b, where that m is from the other line because it's the same slope. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to plug in this x and this y into this equation. So here's where we're going to put the x and here's where we're going to put the y. So I replace the y with -1 and then the x with 5. And now I'm going to solve. And my next step is to solve for b. So solve for b like this. Multiply that 2 times 5. I need to get the b alone. So I had that 10 on there. I don't want the 10 over there. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. And I'd get -11 is equal to b. So now I know that my equation, so this is step 4. I'm going to rewrite the equation with the b. So it's going to be y equals 2x minus 11 is our final answer. So here we go. Put that right there. And then question 2. It's going to be the same thing. I'm going to do it the steps the same way. So first I'm going to write down the equation and I'm going to write down, I'm going to write down this point. And then I'm going to just jump to step 1 where I know that this right here is the slope. And I'm going to write down the equation first. So like the equation with the b, where I don't know the b, I'm just going to put b there. So I go like this. So here is the 2/3 x plus b. It's in that y equals mx plus b form. And then this is my x and that's my y. So I'm going to do 3 is equal to 2/3 times by 2 plus b, which means we're going to have some fractions, which are awesome. So then 2/3 times 2 is like 2/1. So that's going to be 3 is equal to 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3 plus b. We want to get the b alone, so we're going to minus 4/3. But when I minus 4/3 from 3, I'm going to change 3 so it has the same denominator. So it needs to be over 3, so that it have to be 9/3, because 9 divided by 3 is 3, minus 4/3. And then 9 minus 4 is 5/3 is our b. All right, so there's our b. So our final equation is going to be y is equal to 2/3 x plus 5/3. Woohoo! Checkpoint 1. Okay, so we're looking at these two. We're just looking at these equations. They have 2 distinct lines. Are they parallel? So then 3/4 and 3/4. And so I'd say yes, they're parallel because their slopes are equal. That's all we need to do. Then this one, we have this equation, which this is really nice and easy because if your y-intercept is the origin, there's no b. So we just look at the slope here was -4. So we find the equation -4 with no b, and we're done. Then this one is the big long slope stuff, and we want to talk about the slopes. So we're going to talk about the slope ratios between line L and line M. So K or M? See, look at, they put line M and there's no M in there. So I think they meant K. All right, so let's just check. So line L would be XZ over YZ. And the other one would be UZ over VZ. So let's see, X, so there's Z's. They all have Z's, so it has to be this one right here. Lots of z's because I have to go back to z. Yeah. All right. And then next one is, again, we write down, I'm going to start writing the equation. This is what I'm going to write down. Is I'm going to write down the beginning of the right equation. So I'm going to put down y is equal to 1/2 x plus b, because remember, we don't want that one. But to find it, we're going to put this point in there. So the point -8, 1 is what we're going to use. Looks like this. So this is the x. I'm going to change color. So that's the x, that's the y. So we're going to put 1 in right there and -8 right there. So 1 is equal to half of -8 plus b. Then half of -8 is -4 plus b. And then we add 4, and then 5 is equal to b. So our final equation would be y is equal to 1/2 x, because we know that part has to stay the same. And then we put the 5 in there, so plus 5. So 1/2 x plus 5. And then right here, we have to calculate the slopes for both of those. And so I'm going to write those down again vertically. So line L, this is number 5. Line L, I'm going to write down A is 2, 2. B is 3, 6. And then line K is C at 0, 5, and D at 1, 9. So I wrote them vertically, and then I'm going to do it that way that I talked about earlier. So I'm going to subtract and going down. So 2 subtract 6 is -4. 2 subtract 3 is -1. So -4 goes on the top. -1 goes on the bottom. And that would simplify to be just 4. So top, bottom. Correct way of saying it is the numerator and denominator. And then 5 subtract 9 is -4. And 0 subtract 1 is -1. So in the numerator, I'm going to put n for numerator is -4. And in the denominator, I'm going to put d for denominator is -1. -4 divided by -1 is 4. So they are same slope of 4. So that means that they are parallel. All right, coming back here. So yes, they're parallel because their slopes are equal. There we go. So that is checkpoint 1 with all the workbooks. Double checking that the answers are all correct, and they are. And voila, we are done with checkpoint 1.